Hi, everybody. Welcome again to Ivy English. I'm Bruce.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Today we ask the question, how do erasers work? This is an article, and in a moment I will read right through both of these long paragraphs, and then the three of us will gang up on you and teach you what you need to learn.
好，所以我们今天这篇文章的中文标题是小橡皮擦里的大学问。那英文标题很简单，就是 How do erasers work？ 大家注意到 erasers 它是复数的普通名词，没有加冠词，这里就泛指橡皮擦，那用复数的。
No one is perfect. That's why pencils have erasers. As this saying suggests, we all make mistakes in our lives.The good thing is that it's always possible to fix those mistakes, just like erasers can undo a misspelled word. Pencils didn't always come with erasers, though. In fact, before erasers were invented, people used pieces of wet bread to erase their mistakes. But in 1770, British engineer Edward Nairn made an important discovery.By accident. To erase a mistake, Nairn reached out for his bread. He grabbed a piece of rubber instead, but found that it worked too. Nairn's rubbers soon became a hot item, but more than 100 years passed before someone else thought of putting one on the end of a pencil. Nairn's discovery was made by chance, but erasers aren't magical.We can turn to science to learn how they work. Understanding erasers begins with understanding pencils. Every pencil contains graphite. We often call this gray material lead, which is a metal, but graphite is actually a mineral. When you rub the tip of your pencil on a page, tiny pieces of graphite stick to the paper's surface.The action of rubbing an eraser on paper produces heat, in the same way your hands feel warm when you rub them together. This heat makes the eraser's rubber become just sticky enough to pick up the graphite. Those little pieces you wipe away after you erase something are made of graphite mixed with rubber. Next time you erase a mistake,Be grateful that you don't need a piece of soggy bread every time you want to fix an error on a piece of paper.
So, bread? What if you accidentally ate your soggy bread? Oh, gross. Anyways.
That's why it's safe, because no one will eat soggy bread.But
also, you have to note that bread at that time was way coarser than the bread we have now.
Much thicker.
The kind of fine bread we have would make a terrible eraser.
Right.
Yeah, you need to get like a sourdough or something.
好，刚刚这 Angela 老师讲说，那个时候这个1770年代的那个面包呢，比现在的面包还要更 coarse 更粗糙。那 coarse 的拼法是 C-O-A-R-S-E coarse 粗糙的意思。
So,No one is perfect. That's why pencils have erasers. So this is a two-part sort of aphorism in English. No one is perfect means everyone makes some mistakes or everyone has some problems. And that's why means this is the reason for something. That's why pencils have erasers, so that they can erase the mistakes that the pencils make.
好，所以呢，他说这个No one is perfect. 没有人是完美的他放在 quotation marks 里面，表示这是很多人讲的然后没有人是完美的，所以呢 that's why 那就是什么的原因？那就是 pencils have erasers 的原因，那就是铅笔会有橡皮擦的原因。那各位注意到这个 pencils 跟这个 erasers 这里用法一样，都是普通名词的复数，没有加冠词，它用来泛指它并没有特别指哪一支铅笔，它泛指铅笔这种东西。
As this saying suggests, we all make mistakes in our lives. There are no people who are always right, who never make mistakes, who are fooled by others, and so on. So, the saying just reminds us that to be human is to be imperfect.
好，所以呢 as this saying suggests 正如这一句话 saying 就是指前面这句话没有人是完美的，那就是为什么铅笔有橡皮擦的原因，就是这句话。那正如这句话所 suggest 在这里不要翻成建议这个 suggest 它其实就是to say something 通常是 in an indirect way 它没有直接说，它是间接的说但在中文里面通常不会这样的区分直接的说间接的说所以这个 as this saying suggests 中文就可以翻成如这句话所说的就可以了那如他所说的 we all make mistakes in our lives 我们在我们的人生里面呢，或者在生活里面一定会犯错那各位注意到这个 mistakes 跟 lives 在这里都是复数的形式。
The good thing is that it's always possible to fix those mistakes. Nearly always possible to fix those mistakes. Just like erasers can undo a misspelled word. So to undo something is to make it as if it never happened. And misspelled means that you spelled it wrong. So you can erase a misspelled word and write it incorrectly, and it will look like it was never wrong. It's possible to fix mistakes.
好，所以各位注意到这个前面这个很好的一个 chunk the good thing is that 就是幸好还好的意思就是指 that 所讲的事情是还好幸好的，所以 the good thing is that 还好幸好 it's always possible to fix those mistakes 永远是有可能的，我们可以来 fix those mistakes 修正那些错误那 just like 就好像 erasers 就好像橡皮擦可以 undo这个 undo 就是这个把它解除，或者已经做的事情把它恢复就是当作没有做那样的感觉。 undo 有的时候也可以表示解开的意思，解开鞋带也是 undo 那 undo 这种在我们这里的这种用法呢，另外一个还有很常听到就是 to undo the damage 那就是去消除恢复什么样的一个损伤损失。那在这里呢就是 undo 就可以去掉或者是改回一个 misspelled word misspelled 就是拼错了的一个字，你可以用这个 erasers 把它修正回来。
Pencils didn't always come with erasers, though. Today when we buy a pencil, not a colored pencil for art. Those rarely have erasers at the end of them. But the good old wooden, yellow-painted pencil, it's a standard product, usually comes with an eraser at the end of it so that you don't have to stop what you're doing and then try to find an eraser to fix your mistake.
所以他说 pencils didn't always 在过去并不是永远都是 come with erasers 都是 come with 就是附有它不是来的时候都附有着这个 erasers 也就是以前并不是所有的铅笔都有附着一个橡皮擦的。
In fact, before erasers were invented, people used pieces of wet bread to erase their mistakes. So the in fact here is a way of saying I'm going to continue on the idea of the previous sentence and I'm going to add more interesting detail. That is when you use in fact. So in fact, people didn't use erasers. Instead, they used wet bread.
好，所以 in fact 在这里呢，它是为了要引介更多的更详细的资讯更进一步的告诉你一些资讯，关于上一句所讲的资讯。所以在这里呢，他说上一句是说铅笔以前并不是通通都有橡皮擦的那事实上呢，就是进一步告诉你 before erasers were invented 在橡皮擦被发明之前，人们用的是什么样？用 pieces of wet bread 用一块一块的这个湿的这个面包来怎么样？来 erase 来擦掉他们的错误。
And it's important to remember, as Angela said, a lot of the bread we buy today in a bakery is very, very soft and light. But if you go to Europe now, even now, most of the bread is the same as it was centuries and centuries ago. It is thick and compact. So even a thin slice of bread is quite a bit of food for you to eat. And when modern bread, say American-style bread, if it becomes wet, it will fall apart. It can't hold much water. But German bread or French bread, Italian bread, and so on, they're much thicker, so they could absorb or keep some water in it and still remain firm enough, thick enough for you to use to erase mistakes in the past. But in 1770, British engineer Edward Nairn made an important discovery by accident. So people had been using pencils already for quite some time. It wasn't until 1770 that the British engineer Edward Nairn, he made an important discovery. He found out something that wasn't known before him, but he didn't set out. He didn't intend to find this. It just happened.
好，所以呢，这个刚刚 Bruce 老师有提醒大家，那个时候的面包呢，很结实的啊。Bruce 老师用了一个字 compact， C-O-M-P-A-C-T 啊，那就是很结实、很扎实的意思。好，那我们看看这个句，他说在1770年的时候呢，英国的一位工程师Edward Nairn， 他怎么样？他 made an important discovery， 他有了一个很重大的发现，但是他这个发现是怎么样？为什么这样会有这个发现呢？其实是 by accident， 是意外的发现啊，所以他这个所谓的 by accident 就是 in a way that is not planned， 本来没有计划这样子，但是碰巧意外，他就有了这个重大发现。
To erase a mistake, Nairn reached out for his bread. If you reach out for something, it means you extend your hand. So his bread was sitting next to him among a bunch of other stuff, as what happens when you're drawing something. And instead of grabbing the bread, he grabbed something else. But first, he reached out for the bread. Sorry, got ahead of myself.
好，所以呢，为了要擦掉一个错误啊，那 Nairn 怎么样呢 ？Reached out for 就伸手去拿他的面包啊，要拿来擦错误。
He grabbed a piece of rubber instead, but found that it worked too. So he's stretching out his arm, he's reaching out, he's not looking really because maybe he always puts things in the same place. And he picks up a piece of wet bread rather than, he picks up a piece of rubber rather than the wet bread and moves it across whatever he wants to delete and finds, what am I doing with this rubber? Oh, but look, it works just as well as wet bread.
好，所以 he grab 就是抓住、握住，他抓到了一块怎么样 ？a piece of rubber， 抓到了一块橡胶。Instead 就是 instead of bread， 他没有拿到面包，可是呢抓到了一块橡胶。但是呢 found that 他发现到 it worked too， 橡胶也可以用来擦掉铅笔的错误。
Nairn's rubbers soon became a hot item. It was made of rubber, and you also rubbed it on the paper, so rubber was a very natural name. But more than 100 years passed before someone else thought of putting one on the end of a pencil. I think it's not that someone thought about it or did not think about it. It's that putting one on the end of the pencil is kind of hard unless you have the right machines and the little piece of metal that you can clasp it on.
好，所以呢，我们这里看到说这个 Nairn 它的 rubbers， 那放在 quotation marks 里面，因为它既是橡胶 rubber， 那也是用来 rub 用来摩擦的一个东西，所以这个名字还蛮有趣的。那这个 rubbers 很快的就变成了一个 hot item 就成为一个热门商品或者是热门的这个货品物品。这 hot 就是非常的热门的意思但是呢，在这个有人想到说把putting one 就是 one 就是 a piece of rubber， 有人想到要 put one piece of rubber on the end of a pencil， 把它放到铅笔的尾端，这样的一个想法要出来之前呢，还要经过超过100年。换句话说，这个 more than 100 years past， 还要经过100多年 before 才会有人想到，我可以把橡皮擦装在铅笔的这个一端这个 on one end 是一端那放在铅笔的一端。
Okay, second and final paragraph. Nairn's discovery was made by chance. Now, we just said that he didn't intend to do this. It happened by accident, by chance. But erasers aren't magical. There's nothing so special about erasers that we have to pretend that Harry Potter invented them.
所以呢，他说 他的 discovery was made by chance 啊，是这个无意间所发现的。好，那 by chance 跟上面的 by accident 的意思很像哈 ，by chance 也是没有计划 without plan 的意思。好，但是呢，虽然说他的发现是偶然发现，但是这个 erasers 它其实并不是什么很神奇的东西。
We can turn to science to learn how they work. If you turn to something, it means you go to ask that person or that resource or go to find something. So we're turning to a resource to figure out how pencils and erasers work.
好，所以我们可以 turn to science 就是求助于科学，好，来 learn 来知道一下 how they work 好，这个 erasers 是怎么样运作的，怎么样工作的。
Understanding erasers begins with understanding pencils. That makes sense, because the eraser is going to work with your pencil.
好，所以这一句话的主词是个动名词片语 understanding erasers， 所以你要了解橡皮擦begins with 从哪里开始呢？要从 understanding pencils， 你要从了解铅笔开始。
Every pencil contains graphite. Graphite is
石墨。
Thank you.
Yeah， 所以每一支铅笔都含有石墨 graphite.
We often call this gray material lead, which is a metal, but graphite is actually a mineral. In fact, it's one of the two most common natural forms of carbon. The other, besides graphite, is the diamond.
哇哦，好，所以呢，这个地方这个我们讲到石墨他说，首先我们看这句子，他说我们通常称这个灰色的物质 gray material 我们称为铅lead， 但其实铅是一个 metal， 铅是一种金属，但是 graphite 石墨其实是一种 mineral， 是一种矿物质。好，那这个Bruce 老师刚刚讲说，这种矿物质就是碳所这个的一个形式，最常见的自然界碳的两种形式一个就是石墨，另外一个就是钻石。
So when you rub the tip of your pencil on a page, tiny pieces of graphites stick to the paper's surface. They just decide to get together with the paper. And they do it in the shape of a letter. So convenient. Now you have writing.
好，所以呢，当你擦 the tip of your pencil 你的这个铅笔的顶端在这个一个页面上面摩擦的时候呢，这个时候 tiny pieces of graphite 很小的一些石墨的这个颗粒或者是石墨的一小块一小块的石墨呢，就会 stick to 附着于或者粘着于the paper's surface， 会粘在这个纸张的表面上面。
The action of rubbing an eraser on paper produces heat. In the same way, your hands feel warm when you rub them together. Remember, we're talking about rubber. It's a good word for this eraser because it rubs. You rub it on the paper, and when you move two surfaces against each other, it creates heat. And that heat is what allows the graphite to stay with the paper and not fall off it.
好，所以呢，上一句他说，当你摩擦 the tip of your pencil， 就是其实你的铅笔尖在页面上面的时候，那个小小的那个石墨的颗粒就会附着在纸上，这样子就是你写出来的字那个形就看得出来了那接下来这一句呢，他要讲的是，那我们橡皮擦是怎么样运作的呢？他说 the action of rubbing an eraser， 你去摩擦一个橡皮擦的这个动作那 on paper 在纸上摩擦橡皮擦会怎么样呢？会 produces heat， 会产生热能那 in the same way 就是这个产生热能的方式跟什么一样呢？跟 your hands feel warm when you rub them together 当你把两只手呢一起摩擦的时候，你会感觉到你的手心会变热，所以是一样的。换句话说，都是摩擦生热的道理。你两只手摩擦会生热，那你把这个橡皮擦在纸上摩擦也会生热。
So why is the heat important? Well, the heat makes the eraser's rubber become just sticky enough to pick up the graphite. So here's sticky again. If something sticks to something, it adheres to it. If it becomes sticky, it becomes adhesive. It's just a different grammar form of the same idea. And what does it do? It's sticky enough to pick up the graphite. It takes the graphite off of the paper. And for some reason, it does it way better than scraping at it with your fingernail.
好，所以呢，他说这个热能呢，好会让 makes 让什么呢？让 the eraser's rubber 这个橡皮擦上面的橡皮 become 让这个橡皮擦上面变成怎么样 ？just sticky enough 就刚刚好啊，具有相当的粘性啊，而且这个粘性正好足够干嘛？足够 pick up the graphite， 正好足够可以把那个石墨把它 pick up， 把它这个吸起来、拿起来、粘起来、带起来的意思啊。那刚刚这个 Angela 老师用到一个 adhere to 啊，那个就是附着于啊，那这个拼法是 adhere 啊，这动词 adhere to。那它的形容词 adhesive 就是 adhesive 啊，所以同样都是附着。那 adhesive 就是具有粘性、具有附着性的意思。好，所以这个地方就解释说，你铅笔写下去的时候也是靠摩擦啊，但是呢，橡皮擦也是靠摩擦，只不过橡皮在纸上磨的时候会生热，那个热就可以足够到让这个 rubber 把 graphite 把它 pick up 把它带起来。
Those little pieces you wipe away after you erase something are made of graphite mixed with rubber. It's like small pieces of black or very dark dust, but they're a bit sticky, and after you erase something, you have to brush your paper to get rid of them. They stick together, and make sure you clean up after you've been writing with a pencil for a long time. The floor underneath your desk can be full of this stuff and stain your floor.
好，所以呢，他说这些小小的一块一块的the pieces， 这 pieces 怎么样 ？That you wipe away， 你把它抹去，把它擦掉，或者像刚刚 Bruce 老师用的动词 brush，B-R-U-S-H， brush away 也是把它这个擦掉的动作。好，那 after you erase something， 你用橡皮擦擦掉某个东西之后，就会有一些屑，橡皮擦屑，你会把它抹去。那这些东西，这些 little pieces， 其实就是这个橡皮擦屑是怎么样 ？Are made of， 它是由什么组成呢？由石墨，还有呢这个混合着石墨混合着橡皮啊，所以就变成那个物质。
So, next time you erase a mistake, be grateful that you don't need a piece of soggy bread every time you want to fix an error on a piece of paper.
好，所以呢，下一次你要擦掉一个错误的时候 be grateful， 你要心怀感激啊。感激什么呢？感激你不需要用一个 soggy bread， soggy 就是湿湿软软的。那这个字我学的时候印象很深 soggy shoes。下雨天的时候啊，那个鞋子啊踩得湿湿的，然后湿湿软软的那个 soggy shoes。好，那在这里 soggy bread， 你不用拿那个湿湿软软的这个面包来擦。好 ，every time you want to fix an error，fix an error 就是这个修正一个错误，跟我们刚刚第一段 fix those mistakes 一样的用法啊。那 on a piece of paper。Okay,
that completes our lesson for today, the text, but we have a few questions for you. Number 1, the sentences in the first paragraph are numbered 1 to 4. They're little black circles with the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 in them. Which sentence best indicates or shows that the items now known as erasers were first discovered accidentally, by accident?
好，所以第一段里面呢，有被编号为1到4的句子。那哪一个句子最能够说明现在被称为橡皮擦的这个物品最初是偶然发现的
？The best answer definitely is 3. That's C on your answer choices. Nairn, he grabbed a piece of rubber instead of his bread, but found that it worked too.
好，所以答案应该是 C， 是第3句。好，因为根据第一段，好 ，Nairn 他为了擦掉错误，好就伸手去拿面包啊，但是呢，却拿到了一块橡胶，但他发现，这个橡胶一样跟面包一样能够擦掉错误啊，所以可以知道这个橡胶能擦掉错字，这是偶然发现的。
Number 2, which of the following does the passage explain?
本文解释的以下哪一项？
The answer is C. How rubber can be used to erase pencil marks.
本文解释的以下哪一项？答案是 C， 因为它解释了橡胶如何被使用来擦掉这个铅笔的标记。
Our final question, number 3. Which of the following best describes how erasers work?
以下哪一项最能够描述橡皮擦的工作原理？
The answer here is B. Sticky rubber picks up pieces of graphite.
答案是 B， 这个黏黏的橡胶可以把石墨的碎片粘上来。
Okay, that's it for today's lesson. Hope you enjoyed and learned something with us. Until the next time.
Bye-bye.